Good morning students. Welcome to the English class. I am Dr. Tripti Gupta from Shivjyoti Education Group Kota. Now today we are going to start with chapter number 4 of Hornbill. The chapter is Landscape of the Soul by Nathalie Trevorroy. So let us start with this chapter here. So students, let us first start about some information about Nathalie Trevorroy. She is an art historian and as a wife of Belgium ambassador to India, she has travelled to various cities of the world along with her husband. She has a master's degree in the history of art and archaeology from University of Belgium. She plans to write a textbook on Old Delhi architectural gems like Jama Masjid and Chandni Chowk. So now let us move up to the chapter here, the landscape of the soul. Now as you can understand the title, that this chapter is about the art forms, that is the painting, and here in this chapter the difference of the Chinese art form and European art form is being compared, and that has been described by the author here, and he has used 2-3 stories to describe this difference of the art form in this chapter, that how the art form, the Chinese art form is about that how the painter is more concerned about, the focal point is that he tries to develop a spirit, a soul of the painting, whereas the European art is more based on realism and more of illusionary work, where he tries to picturize a real scene, and he basically he wants the viewer to view the painting from his eyes, whereas the Chinese painter, what they want is that the viewer should have his own way, imagination, his own path, and he can move from one point of the painting having his own thoughts and imagination and interpretation to be applied on that abstract landscapes which he has painted, so that he can feel the spirit and the soul of the painting, and he can understand that how painter has painted with what thoughts, and with then he can interpret the art form. So in this manner, let us start with the chapter here. The chapter starts with the story of a very renowned classic painter, Chinese painter, Wu Daozi. Now here see, let us move here, Wu Daozi. Now he lived in 18th century, and there was the Tang Emperor Zhangzong, and he authorized the painter Wu Daozi that he should paint, he should decorate a wall of his palace. Now that painter, he painted a very nice landscape which was having all the beautiful elements of in his painting, like the waterfall. See, the wonderful scene was discovering forest, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immensely beautiful sky, then men on hilly paths, birds in flight. So all these elements were being so beautifully, they were being used in the painting, and that made the painting to be really beautiful. The emperor was also admiring the painting, and then the painter, what he wanted was, he was trying to show a hidden aspect and a thought process with which he has painted the painting, and he showed the emperor that, see here, that there is a cave at the foot of the mountain and where dwells a spirit. So he painted a cave at the foot of the mountain, and what he said, that there is a spirit which resides in that cave. Now, and what he requested the emperor was that he wants that the painting, that emperor should have a glance that how beautifully he has painted the inner side of the cave also. So for that reason he wanted emperor to accompany him in the cave and let him to show the beauty of that cave, how he has well painted it. Okay, for that reason what he did, he clapped just outside that cave, he clapped, and the entrance of that cave it opened. Okay, and as the painter he entered the cave, immediately behind him the entrance it closed. Now the emperor was unable to enter the cave and the entrance of the cave was closed and emperor was left behind. But immediately what the emperor was surprised to find about was, as soon as the door or the entrance of that cave closed, immediately that complete painting it vanished off, it disappeared from the wall, and the painter was never seen again, and it was his last artwork painting which he had done on that palace, which disappeared along with him while he was showing his work to emperor. Now in this manner finally the artist was never seen again in this world. Now there are various such stories which you can find in the classic art forms, painting form of Chinese region, and there is one more story which has been shared. See here, the books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of such stories where you can find the presence of spirit and soul in the painting, and it was being believed by the painters. See, there is one more story which anecdote means something incident, okay, and in this incident what happened was that a painter, he was not ready to paint, he did not paint the eye of a dragon, because what he believed that if suppose for the fear that it would fly out of the painting. What was his logic, that if he paints the eye, he will open the eye, because in that eye the spirit of the painting will reside there, and it will open the eye and the dragon will be live and it will fly out of the painting. So he did not paint the eye of that dragon. So in this manner there are lot many stories, and in those which represent the Chinese art forms. Okay. Now the next author here talks about that how Western paintings are being the native Flanders that she finds the most representative of the Western paintings. Now there is another story which is being shared by the author here, which describes about the various aspects of Western painting. Now see here, दोबारा से start करो. In 15th century, Antwerp is a place. So this place is in Netherlands. Now in Antwerp there was a blacksmith, master blacksmith, and he, Quentin Metzges, and he fell in love with the painter's daughter, a very famous painter was there, and with his daughter, Quentin met says he fell in love with her. But what happened? The father, since he was a painter, he was not accepting Quentin as a son-in-law for his daughter, as he wanted some painter, a famous painter, to be his son-in-law. So, what did Quentin do to prove his art, his talent? He sneaked in without permission. He went inside the painter's studio in his absence, and what he did, he painted a fly on his latest panel. Panel means the art canvas which he was painting, the painting on which he was been working. Okay, on that the side panel is there, and on that panel he painted a fly. Okay, and when the painter he found that fly on the painting, he tried to swap it. Okay, he tried to make the fly to fly off, but later he realized that it was not a real fly. So, Quentin had painted so nicely, it was so real, it was looking like a real fly, and the painter was really happy that somebody has painted such a fly, beautifully painted that fly. So, he accepted Quentin with his talent as his intern, as his trainee, and later on he married to his beloved and went to become one of the most famous painters of his age. So this was the story of 15th century from Western world about a painter. Now there is a phrase which is being used here, that the two stories here are being illustrating what each form of art is trying to achieve. See, there are two different stories. Okay, a perfect illusionistic likeness, that means something is completely similar to the thing, like here in this story, the painting of that fly was completely like a real fly. So that is what is illusionistic likeness. Okay, and this is the part of European art form. Okay, and the essence is of inner life and spirit in Asia. So this is in Asian art form, that means the Chinese art form which we are been discussing, the essence is of inner life and spirit, whereas in European art form, a perfect illusionistic likeness is the key feature of the European art form. Okay, now see here in the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. Okay, so but the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. See what exactly happened? The emperor was looking at the various features of that landscape, the mountains, the waterfall, the birds, flying birds. Okay, all those things were the surface things, the superficial features of that painting. But the artist wanted to make him to understand the real meaning, the abstract interpretation of that painting. Okay, so what he says is, the emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. That means the territory which has been ruled by an emperor is okay, perfectly it is owned by he is the ruler, but he does not, he really needs somebody, some artist to guide him so that he can reach the inner spirits of that territory, of that painting. Okay. So, let me show the way. The Tao, a word that means both the path and the method, the mysterious work of the universe. So, here the concept of Tao, that means, which means the path and or the method, how to reach the spiritual concepts of the life, the mysterious work of the universe. That is what Tao means. Okay, so that is what the artist wanted to show the emperor. Okay, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. So he has reached the highest most, he has reached his own goals while he was trying to show the path to the emperor, and he finally reached his own ultimate end by through his painting, through the spirits of his painting. Okay. Now let us move further here with few more concepts about the Chinese art and the comparison of Chinese art with the Western art. Now what it is saying is, the classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view, whereas as would a Western figurative painting. Now, figurative painting means something which is symbolic artwork, okay, which is non-literary. Now, see, the Western paintings are figurative paintings, they are symbolic, there is a symbolism of something real, something actual. There is a real view which has been symbolically, which has been painted in the painting, and it follows the realism. Okay, whereas no such reproduction of actual view is being done in Chinese art. The Chinese art is more based on abstract painting. Okay. So, whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes, look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it. So, the viewer, what the European painter wants, that the viewer should understand, interpret his artwork from his point of view. The way he looks, what view the painter with which he has painted his painting, that viewpoint should be borrowed by the viewer to interpret the painting. Okay. Whereas from a specific angle, the Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. In comparison to this European art form, the Chinese art form, they are not restricting the viewer to have the painter's viewpoint. Okay, they do not choose a single viewpoint. Single viewpoint is of the painter's viewpoint. So, the viewers are not restricted to follow only painter's viewpoint. Okay, his landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down and then back again in a leisurely movement. So, what is happening in Chinese art here? See here, what he is saying is that he has not painted something which is real. He has painted a landscape which is in abstract form. Okay. And you can enter it from any point, wherever from you like. If you like from the mountain side, you can enter and you can start interpreting the painting from that side. If you want to follow the waterfall, you can follow the waterfall so that you can interpret the painting. You can have your own imaginative, you can have your own imagination, you can travel in the painting as if your imagination. Okay, and your path of imagination is not being guided by the painter from, rather through his painting he is trying to giving your imagination a path to travel in his own painting and interpret the painting in your own viewpoint, in your own thinking, with your own perspective. Okay, so this is how there is a very phenomenal difference which is there in the European art form and the Chinese art form. Okay, now this is even more true in the case of horizontal scroll, in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. What he is saying, that horizontal scrolling, that means there is a painting which is opening, which is revealing horizontally, it is scrolling, and you can start traveling, it is start revealing from one side, and you can keep on traveling and imagining and viewing and interpreting that painting from horizontal, in a horizontal movement. Okay, now let us move further here, something more. So the Chinese form of art, it requires the active participation of the viewer, who decides at what place he will travel through the painting. That means a physical participation and active participation is required from the viewer if he wants to interpret and if he wants to view the Chinese art form. Okay, the Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes, he wants you to enter his mind. Now this is the basic conclusion of this comparison. See here, the European art form, in the painter of the European art form, what he wants, that the viewer should borrow his eyes, whereas in the Chinese art form, what the painter wants is you to enter his mind. With what viewpoint, with what thoughts and imagination he has painted that painting, he wants the viewer to travel through his painting and try to analyze and reach his mind and interpret his thoughts while he has what he has applied while he has painted the painting. Okay, so the landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and a conceptual space where one can communicate his thought, his mind to the viewer. Okay, so conceptual space means a related idea or concept. Okay, so now let us move further here with one more concept, that is Shan Shui, which is coming ahead in the chapter. Yes, see, Shan Shui literally means mountain water, and which is used together to represent the word landscape. Okay, so this is the concept which is expressed, that is mountain water, and in totality, in together, the mountain water, that is Shan Shui, is basically it is representing the word landscape. Okay, now there are more than two elements of an image. These represent two complementary poles reflecting Taoist view of the universe, the mountain and water. These are the two elements, and this view point is known as Taoist view. Okay, and in this particular concept, the mountain is yang, reaching vertically towards heaven, which is representing the masculine part. Okay, yang, that is the mountain, and which is representing the masculine part of the universe. Okay. Now it has been represented by very straight vertical features like mountains. Okay, they are stable, warm, dry in sun. Okay, while the water, that is the second element, that is yin, it is representing the horizontal aspect, okay, and resting on the earth, the fluid element, the moist and cool effect of the elements is being represented by water, that is yin. Now, the interaction of yin, the receptive feminine aspect of universal energy, and its counterpart yang, active and masculine, is of course a fundamental notion of Taoism. So basically this concept of Taoism is comprising of two very basic elements, that is the masculine yang element, that is the mountain, and the feminine yin, that is the water. And this interaction of these two elements, where one is the high energy form, that is the masculine form, which is very energetic, very active, whereas the feminine element yin, that is water, which is more horizontal and cool and moist, and it is basically the receptive part of the energy of the universe. Okay. So now often what is overlooked is an essential third element, the middle void. Now between the interaction of these two elements, there is a third element which is being talked here in this concept, that is the middle void. Void means something which is hollow, where there is a hole. Okay. So there is a middle void which is the third element of this concept. Now let us look about what that concept is. Okay. Where their interaction takes place. So this middle void is the place where the interaction of the yin and yang takes place. This can be compared with yogic practice of pranayam, breathe in, retain and breathe out. Now see what he has compared this concept of middle void, yin and yang. So what he is saying, the interaction of yang and yin, it happens in the third element, that is the middle void, and that this concept is being compared with the yogic. See here, it is compared with that the yogic practice of pranayam. As we see in pranayam, what happens? We breathe in and then we stay, we retain for some time and then we breathe out. So that part in which we retain the air that we have breathed in, that is the part where which is being compared to the middle void. Okay.